There we have it. President William Ruto has taken the drastic and, as far as I'm aware, the unprecedented action of dismissing all his cabinet secretaries, with the exception of the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, who also serves as the Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Cabinet Secretary. My name is Olive Burrows. If you're just joining us, we were listening to an address by President William Ruto, one that was much anticipated. And in his speech, his address to the nation this afternoon, he has taken the drastic, and my panelists in studio will tell me whether it is historic, action of dismissing all his cabinet secretaries, with the exception of the Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Cabinet Secretary, and that is Musalia Mudavadi. He says the office of the Deputy President, as you would expect, is unaffected, and he says the operations of government will proceed unabated under the stewardship of the principal secretaries. And I just want to read out the 22 dockets that have been affected. We have, in this case, it should be 21, with the exception of Musalia Mudavadi. Kithure Kindiki, who has been serving as Interior and National Administration Cabinet Secretary. Njuguna Ndung'u, who has been serving as National Treasury and Planning Cabinet Secretary. Aisha Jumwa, Gender, Culture and Arts and Heritage. We also have Aden Duale, who is Defense, who has also been dismissed. Alice Wahome, Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development. Alfred Mutua, Tourism and Wildlife. Moses Kuria, Public Service Performance and Delivery Management. Rebecca Miano, Investments, Trade and Industry. Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, who is Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary. Rosa, who has been in this case. Rosalinda Soipan Tuya, who has been Environment and Forestry Cabinet Secretary. Zakaria Mwangi Njeru, who has been the Cabinet Secretary for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Penina Malonza, EAC, ASAL and Regional Development is also out. Mithika Linturi, Agriculture and Livestock Development is also out. Ezekiel Mashogu, Education Cabinet Secretary, who has been serving as Education Cabinet Secretary, is also out. Davis Churcher is also out, as well as Ababu Namwamba, who has been serving as Youth Affairs and Sports Cabinet Secretary. Simon Chalugwe, Cooperatives and MSME Development is also out. Salim Mvuria, who has been serving in the capacity of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs Cabinet Secretary, is also out. Florence Bore, Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary, is also out. Eliud Owalo, Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary, is also out. Susan Nakumicha, who has been serving in the capacity of CS Health, is also out. And not just those 21, Justin Bedan Njoka Muturi, gentlemen, if I heard correctly,
yes, is
also out. If you're just joining us, President William Ruto has dismissed his entire cabinet, including the Attorney General, that is Justin Bedan Muturi. The president has said that the ministries will be run by the principal secretaries, although the PCS, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, who also serves as the Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, remains, as does legally the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And so there we have it. We have Kithure Kindiki out, Njuguna Ndung'u out, Aisha Jumwa out, Aden Duale out, Alice Wahome out, Alfred Mutua out, Moses Kuria out, Rebecca Miano out, Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen out, Rosalinda Soipan Tuya out, Zachary Mwangi Njeru out, Penina Malonza out, Mithika Linturi out, Ezekiel Mashogu out, and Davis Churcher, Ababu Namwamba, Simon Chalugui, Salim Vuria, Florence Bore, Eliud Owalo, and Susan Nakumicha, in addition to the Attorney General, Justin Bedan Njoka Muturi. The president did say that he would be holding consultations. And he said, he's talked about, again, the broad-based, let me just get that right, a broad-based government, forming a broad-based government after consultations with various stakeholders. With me in studio, we have Mark Bichachi, who is a communication strategist. We also have Arnold Maliba Arnold. he keeps having to remind me. Maliba Arnold, who is heads up strategic comms, UDA. Advisor, yes, I beg your pardon. Advisor strategic comms, UDA. I'm used to public policy analyst, so allow me some time to warm up. But Mark, did you anticipate this afternoon?
You know, we've spent quite a lot of time with my brother here, Arnold, trying to look into our crystal balls. And I think we'd gotten to a maximum of 6 or 7 of them who are going. It is actually surprising that the president has taken the bold move to dismiss both friend and foe. Those cabinet secretaries that many would have imagined were performing would have been saved. He's shown that there are no sacred cows as far as he's concerned. So yes, he has surprised us. This move can only be compared to Kibaki's move after he lost the 2005 referendum, where he also let go of his cabinet. But this is...
So this is not, as I thought, unprecedented.
Well, it's been more than 10 years since this happened, more than 15 actually, 18 years if I'm correct, yes. So it's unprecedented under the new constitution. It's something that Uhuru Kenyatta never did, even when his cabinet was full of a lot of wrangles. But what this tells me is that the Gen Z have managed to do something that was the role of parliament. And I want to remind parliamentarians that when they were voting in this cabinet, they called them monkeys and gave the president his monkeys. That's what they said.
Skunk, I think.
Yes, his
the word was skunk.
Yes.
Yeah, give the president his skunk.
Now, my question is, dear parliamentarians, were they the president's skunks or Kenyan skunks, if that is the case? And we must then thank the Gen Z for reviving the conscience of this country, reviving the conscience of the church, and giving this country an opportunity to start afresh, such that priests are not the same, cabinet secretaries are not the same, cops are not the same, and even how we handle demonstrations are not the same. We must all congratulate Gen Z for bringing back the conscience of our country, and we must also thank the president for cleaning house.
Arnold, you're an insider. Strategic comms advisor. Tell me, were you expecting this?
Advisors are largely outsiders who bring...
And might your own job be in jeopardy? You know, we heard about advisors being
advisors
by half.
He'll go to the office half of him tomorrow.
So, I think most of us didn't see the president doing this. But over and above, I think that what the president has done is not something that you will say wasn't a bridge so far for him. But let's begin from this particular point. For those who still doubted that June 25th was a turning point for this country, today's decision by the president should be your answer. For those who still thought that what happened on June 25th did not remake the republic, I think the decisions taken in the days past and today's very bold decision should answer you that a new nation was actually born on 25th. Of course, it's been in the making for a while, and that young people have come out to be part and parcel of the management of public affairs.
All right. So I will ask you to press pause right there so that we can speak to Stephen Leto. Stephen Leto was covering that address by the president. He is in State House, Nairobi. Leto, for those who are just joining us, could you bring us up to speed on what the president has announced?
Well, that has been a press briefing from State House, a surprise move indeed from President William Ruto, dissolving his entire cabinet in a surprise move that was unprecedented, because today when we were actually told that we be available here in State House, Nairobi, little did the country or we know about the upcoming event this afternoon. But a surprise move dissolving the entire cabinet just comes and rekindles memories back to 2005 when the late president, retired Mwai Kibaki, also did a similar move, dissolving his entire cabinet just after the loss of the 2005 referendum. These now coming as following an intense pressure from the protesters that have been pushing for a total government overhaul, criticizing or accusing the government of mismanagement of funds decisions, as well as also doing what they termed as not helping the president run the country. Some of the ministers that had been flagged, of course, from various ministries with how they've been running their dockets have also been coming to the fore. Of course, the pressure coming from the protests and they occupy several parts of the country that have been taking place for the various part of the country and in various weeks for the 3 weeks now. And even another threat that has been from yesterday that there will be another Occupy the CBD next Thursday just to pressure the government to implement their demands. These, of course, a move to fire or dissolve the entire cabinet now leaves a blank check for President William Ruto to see what will come or who will be appointed back or who will be the new faces in his cabinet. And of course, more also comes just 2 days ago. President William Ruto, alongside all party leaders that brought together former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in charge of ODM, the Attorney General, as well as several other party leaders, including Kalonzo Musyoka from the opposition, coming in. President William Ruto, while he was in KICC, hinted on a broad-based political arrangement, and could be that is a hint that we've just received this afternoon in State House after dissolving the entire cabinet. But the president has made it clear that even after dissolving the cabinet, government programs and government services will run uninterrupted, because in their respective ministries there are other cadres of employees of government, civil servants, and of course under the principal secretaries in the respective ministries. Remember also last weekend or last Saturday, the president fired, or what we call dissolved 47 state parastatals in austerity measures, and we are yet to get the list of the 47 to see whether the list of 47 will be affecting various ministries or particular ministries, to hint that some of the ministries could, as what the president says, having a lean and sustainable cabinet will lead to slashing down of cabinet positions from 22 down to either between 14 and 22. And so we continue to keep an eye and see what the president will have for the nation going forward with regard to reconstituting his cabinet in what he said will be a cabinet of national unity. Olive.
All right, thank you for that update, Stephen Leto. I have the statement now that was delivered by the president in my possession. I'm just going to go through what he announced if you're just joining us. As you can see on your screen, the president, with the exception of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign and Diaspora Affairs Cabinet Secretary, has dismissed the rest of his cabinet. Of course, as you would expect, the deputy president is safe. So he said, and I quote, "Upon reflection, listening keenly to what the people of Kenya have said, and after a holistic appraisal of the performance of my cabinet and its achievements and challenges, I have, in line with the powers given to me by Article 152.1 and 152.5b of the Constitution and Section 12 of the Office of the Attorney General Act, decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the cabinet secretaries and the Attorney General from the Cabinet of the Republic of Kenya, except the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. So he has dismissed with immediate effect all the cabinet secretaries and the Attorney General from the Cabinet of the Republic of Kenya, with the exception of the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. And while we get some legal interpretation shortly, Bobby Mkangi, get ready. We're about to call you, because we technically have a government without cabinet secretaries, but before then, you are giving your initial reactions, and you're saying the events of June the 25th set us on a new course.
Yes, I was saying that the events of June 25th was actually a very pivotal moment for this particular country, and them that have actually taken it as business as usual should actually see what has actually followed after that. Number one, we have got oversight over leadership, a very strong oversight by the populace. Whatever you want to call them, whether they're Gen Zs, whether you want to call them millennials, whether they're young people, but the citizenry has actually decided that they will do oversight over the nation. And you realize that so many things that had taken so long are actually all of a sudden now being addressed. Now, as to what the president has done now, of course, Article 152 gives him the power to nominate and in approval with Parliament to appoint. The same also works for, not really the same, but then for purposes of dismissal, he does that. These are his people, he appointed them. Now, cabinet secretaries are first and foremost advisors to the president in those specific departments. So like you said, of course, at the beginning, that there is, of course, a rethinking around advisors. But, you know, that has been around the government, not the party. So don't worry, we are safe. Anyway, well, in hard times, we can actually afford a little bit of humor. But then let's say this, that what the president does solves a lot of problems. If you are in his position, whom do you let go and whom don't you let go? It's a matter of ensuring that we start from a clean slate as a nation. He's talking about a broad-based approach, conversations. That means that the new Kenya that we have actually launched between elections, ordinarily we are given the election season, or rather, even though the cycle, within the cycle, we have got a time when we can actually take position. Now, in between that, we are yet to hit the mid-mark, and as a nation, we think we are not going on the direction we would like. So he says we are going to have a broad-based conversation. We have got dialogue among ourselves and see how we move forward. And I think the president has an opportunity, because the truth is that however much you look at this country, President William Ruto is the president of this particular moment. There is no one who would actually have dealt with Kenya in such a time as this. When you talk about our national debt, all of us knew 5 years ago that we would be here. When we talk about the social unrest and everything else, you can look at the articles that were written 5 years ago. They pointed to this. The right man for this hour is actually the president. And what he has done is that with the mandate given to him by Kenyans, he's gone back and told them, okay, we can always start afresh. There is no specific time when we don't have to wait for 5 years.
All right, so let me bring Mark in at this point. Mark, he began by saying how he has worked to stabilize the economy. Of course, the state of the economy has been the elephant in the room. And he talked about pulling Kenya back from the brink of debt default. He talked about inflation. And so he laid out his scorecard to then turn around and say, okay, go home to all of you except for Musalia Mudavadi.
The president finds himself in a very difficult position. And the difficulty arises in this instance that you're not dealing with Christians versus Muslims. You're not dealing with political parties versus political parties. You're not dealing with tribes versus tribes. And you're not dealing with class versus class. You're dealing with a generation of people who have decided that they democratically know what is good for the country. What do I mean democratically? These young people are talking to themselves. Twitter X Spaces every day. And then they come up with a democratic position that they all agree to without class or any form of discrimination. When that happens, as a president, there are two things you need to get back. One, you need to get back their trust and your legitimacy. And therefore, that legitimacy and that trust could not have been held by the cabinet that this movement has called dysfunctional. So the president literally has allowed one of the most important things that can happen between a nation, its leadership, and its citizens. Creation of good and healthy, positive tension towards a better country. This thing has changed Maandamano from hooliganism to actual economic and political points that matter to everyone. They matter even to the president himself. That particular change and the reaction of the president to it is how Kenya needs to move forward. So the president, in dismissing his cabinet, the constitution does not say, as per my reading, how long the cabinet can stay out of office. However, the most important thing is Kenyans need to see leaders that are, number one, smarter than them. Number two, more responsible than them. Number three, accountable. The idea of having, and I think this is something that has really made a lot of Kenyans angry, that there are some leaders who, when they speak, a Gen Z who's 20 years old thinks they're smarter than them. That needs to stop in this country.
But did you expect which do you prefer? Arnold, you know, now that you've... there's Maliba before the Arnold.
Yeah.
But did you expect the Attorney General would be among the casualties?
Yes.
Of course, there was the headline that was on the Standard today about his advice not being sought in a number of instances, and then he released a statement and said no, this does not represent the true position.
But his son was arrested.
Olive,
how obvious could it be?
Olive, let's begin from this point. Any appointed officer serving in public office does so at the president's pleasure. I know that is not written strictly in the law, but anyone appointed, we're talking about the appointees who come to government, they do so at the president's pleasure. I know people might not really, I know in strict legalese, people will be arguing that is not, there are offices that have got tenure and such. But allow me to run this way and tell you this, that the president's decision to actually dissolve the cabinet says that there are far-reaching changes that are coming. If the cabinet has actually been sent home, you expect that the next level of changes is actually going to be among the PSS, who are the technical people, who are the deliverers of the dream, the better plan that the president has actually been very passionate about and his team is working on. You expect that the same will fall in all, so it's not going to work. If you've heard about the fall of the favorites, is normally, there's a general who heard that there was an uprising.
Before we get into the general, I keep doing this to you, Arnold. I am so sorry. But nitakumbuka tulikuwa
this is the second time I'm actually saying it's important.
But nitakumbuka ulikuwa unatuambia story ya general. But it's because many people want to hear what the president said himself before we continue with the discussion. So here is a replay of that address to the nation by President William Ruto.